down a couple flights of steep stairs that turn every which way. So, even going down with a wheelchair is not a smart way for me to try to get down.
No, it's not smart. And with a walker or even a cane or crutches, that's a real challenge.
It is. But the situation is, how many people out there are going through this? And when you were in law enforcement, how did you handle situations where, there was domestic violence?
Let me respond to that this way. When I met my last wife, who I'm divorced from, obviously, she had some children, two of whom did not live with her. One who was just coming out of grade school and going into middle school. She had issues with him before, with, antisocial behavior, etc. And I think that the premise that she had was, well, you're a cop and he'll respond to that and everything is going to be just fine. I also had a social worker that basically abrogated her responsibility and said, oh, well, you're a police officer, you can take care of it. And what people don't realize is that there are factors in the human personality. Some of them are physical, some of them are psychological, some of them are spiritual, that enter into who and what you're dealing with. And I discovered that in short order that I had a lot on my hands. And when you talk about the threats, being threatened with a knife, standing at the end of the bed, et cetera, my friend, I went through that movie for years, and I think I bent over backwards to try to correct the problem because I was doing everything that I could. And it's not easy to do. And let's say you're a detective and you're dealing with a serial rapist, and that's taking an awful lot of your time and energy, and you're dealing with all the other things that go on in a police department. You get home, and some kid that by then is a teenager starts threatening you when you come in the front door, and his mother. You're trying to do everything you can because you're married to his mom and you want to try to make things right. But after a while, the professional training that you've had as a police officer kicks in, and you start realizing that you're dealing with a sociopathic personality. And I spent thousands of dollars literally on lawyers, social workers, counselors, tutors, you name it. And I know that you've been through that movie too. And, the thing of it is that the die was cast on this kid. And I got a phone call one day from a friend of mine at SPD. And he said, do you have a son? I said, I have a stepson. And I said, why are you calling me? And he said, well, he had a pellet rifle and a ski mask, and he was hiding in a grove of Christmas trees, shooting out windows at passing cars. And wow. We got the call of shots fired, and we proned him out, and he's at the precinct. He said, what do you want us to do with him? I said, what do you mean, what do I want you to do with him? And he said, well, he said that you were a police officer, blah, 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 blah. And I said, book him. I had reached my maximum. And you've gone through that movie, Gary, and all I can say is that you asked me how many people do I know have gone through that. I know a lot of people that have gone through that with various kids. And it's one of the toughest things that you are going to have to confront as a parent. And the last thing that you want when you call the police and somebody who doesn't have any empathy or doesn't have an understanding of what you're going through shows up and says, well, just go get a restraining order. Well, that's easier said than done. And what you're expecting is a little bit of professionalism and a little bit of empathy. And a lot of times you don't get that. And I'm the first one to admit that unfortunately does happen.
Oh, it does, because it does happen, because I you sit there and try to explain. It's not just, even if I could, it's hard because, I'm married. I'm married to his mother. Now, for a long time, his mother was one, towards the end, scared of him. Reprisals.
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe he'll burn the house down. Maybe he'll come back and kill us. She was scared about that. But then the other part is, the love that a mother has towards a child. And I was scared if I sat there and pushed it, I could end up, well, I hate to say it, not married after going on 43 years. I mean, I hate to say it. A mother has love more for her child than she ever will have for a husband. I'm going to be honest with you. At least the majority of them.
I trust me, I totally get that. Peace de resistance for me was when I had put up with about all I could put up, and he was 18 years old, and I had gone through years of this stuff. And I finally handed this kid a $100 bill and said, "You're an adult. You are out of my life. You are out of here." Now, his mother wasn't any too happy about that, but I had gotten calls from police departments from Tacoma North, and you get really tired of dealing with it, and you get tired of being called by detectives that are friends of yours, telling you that they have him on video stealing, thousands of dollars worth of electronic equipment from a middle school. And, I can remember I had reached the end of my tether by the time that one happened. And so what happened was I get this call from a detective up on the 4th floor of the sheriff's office, and he was a friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, I hate to tell you this, but we got him on camera, ripping off this school for, thousands of dollars worth of electronic equipment." And I went, "Okay." And he said, have you seen or heard, any like stereos going off in his room?" And I went, "Yeah." I said, "I went in the other day because he had a brand new outfitted stereo system in there, and I asked him where he got it, and he said, 'Oh, I traded that for this and this and this and this.'" And I said, "Okay." I said, I'll take care of it." And he said, "I'm going to come down there in about an hour and pick him up." And I went, "All right." So I went into his room, and he was playing that stereo, and I said, "Turn the stereo off, because I have something I'm going to say to you, and I want you to listen very, very carefully." So he turned it off, and he knew I wasn't kidding around, and I said, "You are going to tell me where every piece of that stolen merchandise that you took from that middle school is. I just got a call from a friend of mine who's a detective." And I said, I have given you a basket full of chances, and you've thrown them in my face. And I can't take this anymore, and I'm not going to take it anymore. So you have exactly 10 seconds to tell me where all of this stuff is. Because if you don't tell me, tomorrow I will not be a police officer, because I'll be in jail and you will be in the hospital. Do I make myself abundantly clear? I meant every word of it. And he went, "Yeah." And he started telling me where, all of these goodies were. And I had to go down to Genesee and Rainier and pick up part of it. But I got it all back. And the point is, Gary, that we reach our limit. We're human beings. And when you put someone under enough stress for a long period of time, they reach a breaking point. And I reached mine. And fortunately, he told me where everything was, and I got all the stuff back, and he went to jail. And when all was said and done, my friend needed a statement from me. So I gave him a written statement as to what I found in his room and where he told me the rest of the stuff was. And I called the detective back up, and I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go down to Rainier and Genesee and get the rest of it." His mother yelled and screamed at me and said, "Well, how could you possibly give that detective a statement? And I said, wait a minute. I said, I'm not the bad guy here. I said, your son has done years and years and years of this kind of stuff. And I refuse to be the bad guy. And I'm not the bad guy. And I said, you're enabling him. I said, your son is a sociopath. He knows exactly what he's doing. He doesn't feel any guilt for what he's doing. And you refuse to recognize that. And you have been told that before, that he is not a follower. He is a leader. He knows exactly what he's doing. And, I continued to be the bad guy. And let's just say that, one thing led to another. And I finally got out of that relationship. But that was after I'd spent, thousands of dollars and done everything that I could, really beyond being reasonable. And so when I heard you on the air, I mean, it broke my heart because I had total empathy with what you were going through, Gary.
It was hard. It's still hard because, in his mind now, I felt bad because he's basically homeless. He's 26 years old. He only has a part-time job working like about 10 hours a week. He has no other relatives in the family want to take him in. That's how bad he has burnt everybody in the family. I mean, he's literally has treated everybody like they're nothing, like scum, and lets them know it. So now he's in a situation where, he needed money. I'll be honest with you. I gave my wife $50. I said, give it to him where he can at least buy food and put some gas in his motorcycle where he can get to work. And the first thing what happened one time, he used my cell phone back about a year ago. I have been, no matter what, I've been trying to get them to take my number off. But there's a pot store he goes to, and then all of a sudden I get a text message. It says, here's your receipt. And here we gave him $50. The first thing he went and did, 10 minutes later, he went to the pot store with the money. And I told my wife, that's the last bit of money he's going to get from me. But he sat there and told my wife, well, you know what? I think at my attorney, which is going to be a public defender, we're going to fight it. We're going to get the charges dismissed, that the 2-year no contact order will be dropped. My understanding that no contact order will not be dropped, even if they drop the charges. It's 2 years.
Number one, I don't think they're going to drop the charges. Number two, no, they're not going to drop the no contact order. And number three, Gary, you have done everything above and beyond to be reasonable.
Now,
and,
hey, Tom,
I totally get what you're saying.
Tom, I got to interrupt you. We got to go at a break for the radio stations. And then James has his last, newscast of the paranormal. So we'll be back in about 8 minutes with Tom Davis. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. Then we're going to talk about his music also before I let him off. So you're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. This is Gary, and we'll be back in about 8 minutes.
One day while reading history, I paused to take a sigh about the land Afghanistan, where empires go to die. Alexander the Great, he tried and failed. The Mongols, they did too. The British and the Russians, they got their ass kicked too. America's been there many years, and I ask myself why we don't learn from history, where empires go to die. They say it's terrorism, that's political malarkey. Just follow where the money goes to a corporate oligarchy. The food crops they once grew with a plow and a hoe been turned into opium poppies, growing row on row. Our infrastructure's crumbling, our social structure too. It's a corporate scam, they don't give a damn while screwing over me and you.